like you and I grew up in the Long Island area, right? Like we're both from Long Island.
That's right.
You have much more. I mean, given that you're older than me, but you also have a lot more experience on tracks and stuff like that than I do, which is zero.
Yes, I have more than zero.
Right, but like we're from the same place. Like I don't understand. Like you had to travel every time you wanted to go onto a track and get experience, or how has it been that you're?
Well, that's a loaded question, but go ahead.
Yeah, but I mean, I've been to Englishtown before. With the drag strip over there, whatever. I never raced on it.
Why not?
I don't know. I was a spectator.
But you didn't have that desire to ever hit the track?
I did have a desire.
But you didn't because
I don't know. I guess I didn't know the first steps to kind of getting onto the track or whatever it was. Like I had my
helmet, $40.
Yeah,
that used to be what it was, really.
Wow.
A helmet, a fire jacket, and $40. But that was only in the later part.
Well, one of the few times I've only been there to watch drag racing was for Honda Day, back when it was still called Honda Day.
Yeah, that doesn't count. That's different.
I know,
it's like an event.
Right. So I didn't just want to sign up and go there.
Tunes every Wednesday. So like Wednesday night used to be the night like where people would like, journey into Englishtown.
Okay.
And then we realized, as we got a little bit older, we realized that really the name of the game was actually renting ATCO out, because ATCO used to do a thing. I think it was like $1,500 for like a weekday.
Mm-hmm.
If I remember correctly, it was like $1,500 for a weekday, which gave you, I think, up to 15 cars or something like that. And then you could pay for track prep or something to that effect if you wanted it, which, you did, because it wasn't like very good without it. But we used to, like, when we realized that, like, get 10 people, spend $150,
mm-hmm.
like, you'll be able to run as much as you want for hours and hours,
That's pretty cool. I mean, well, so I guess the thing is, like, what do people do who don't have any tracks near them?
Well, I mean, now that's pretty much everywhere in the Northeast, at least. Well, that's not true. Connecticut has like some stuff, but
I mean, like when we went down to Fuel Fest over at Jersey Motorsports Park, last month or whatever. While we were down there was a whole bunch of other events going on other parts of the tracks or whatever. Or there's 2 tracks there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there was an event going on one of the other tracks, which was all go-karts.
Okay.
Or they have a go-kart and track or whatever it is. It's like the really fast.
Well, I've been to New Jersey Motorsport Park once, so I don't.
What are the carts called?
Yeah, they're carts.
Carts, whatever. Yeah, but like there was so many people there just for that stuff, and I mean that's sick, and you can't do that anywhere else on the streets or whatever it is. You have to bring that stuff particularly to a track,
right?
Yeah. So I mean, well, and then I think of like all the other stuff in terms of like car related stuff. Where do people gonna go if they have nowhere near them? If they want to run, they got to travel. Everyone has to travel to get to a track.
Yeah, but that's how it was with us. Like, originally back in the day, like we're from Long Island, for those that are listening, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So we, when I first got into, like, started to get into drag racing and was really starting to get into cars like that, like we had West Hampton Dragway. And like that was, a 30-minute jaunt for us to get out there, and then it wasn't the best track. In fact, it wasn't very good at all.
When did that close?
2002, 2003, 2004, somewhere in that area.
I was far away from getting my license.
I feel like 2004, 2005, right in that 2004.
I was some time away from getting my license still.
Yeah, not me. So, like, we used to go there, but, like, I mean, for the most part, any of the bigger races or any of the, like, the events or anything that was of substance, you went to Englishtown,
Right.
And now they've basically taken they destroyed that as a drag strip, leveled the last 8th mile, turned the front 8th of the mile of the drag strip into that drift stadium.
Yeah. I mean, do you have any particular experience drifting? No, right?
I have, like, 12 minutes in that sim.
Oh, that's right. And you're in the sim.
Yeah,
but yeah,
so
you need a different type of track to be able to drift on. So where are people going to drift? Like I just found out recently that there is some kind of more, smaller scale drifting stuff happening in our local area. But like I'm pretty sure it's just parking lot stuff, and people kind of organize it and do it. But
yeah,
like
I mean, I'm sure most of them are going to be skid pads and open lots,
exactly,
and stuff like that. I mean, look, I think that's still tough to. it might be something to satisfy a little bit of your need, but it's not gonna be like, like, oh yeah, like I'm at a full facility that embraces this.
Yeah. So I mean, well, what's the answer then? You want to go pack up your stuff and go drifting, and you got to carry yourself extra wheels and tires and stuff like that, and then go across state lines to a track to go drift.
Yeah.
It makes it hard for people.
Of course, it makes it hard.
Yeah. I mean,
but that's been the problem with, and people have been arguing about tracks closing for decades.
Yeah,
is the fact that there's nowhere to go.
Yeah, ATCO you mentioned already.
ATCO's gone now.
That's gone. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then another track recently, Heartland Motorsports Park somewhere in the south closed.
Yep.
I mean, where are people going to go to do motorsports like stuff?
Well, see, that's the problem. The problem is that, like, with all these tracks closing, you have a lot of the issues coming in that there isn't going to be a place or a facility that gives people an outlet to kind of do this stuff.
Yeah.
So you create a problem which is never going to be resolved. Listen, I don't want to say, like, this has always been the measure of people that, when tracks were closing, specifically, like, in the early 2000s, people making the thing that really led to a lot of these kids hitting the street even more, street racing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's funny that you should say. Would you say that the lack of tracks nearby or accessible for people in the majority, say in the Northeast, do you think that results in more of these takeover type things?
No.
Why not?
Because takeovers are nothing like a motorsport. Period.
Yeah, okay. So, but all right, so would it be fair to say that there are legit enthusiasts there, maybe not taking part in it, but maybe just things got carried away and they were there thinking that they were going to do some enthusiast-like stuff, and then it turns into more rowdy, not enthusiast-like stuff?
No.
Do you get what I mean by that?
Like, maybe in the first start of what that turned into. But once it was really identified by social media as what it was,
yeah.
No, I don't think that you're getting people out there. Do I think that there's some overlap? Do I think that there's occasionally a couple cool cars or there's some cool cars that maybe those people really also would like to go to their drag strip? Yeah, but do I think that they're going there as a replacement for not having a track? I don't, but I will say that I think that the lack of tracks exacerbates maybe another outlet that people could have used to replace some of these things. But I think ultimately, you know what street takeovers really remind me of?
What?
They remind me of the dudes on the belt that do usually in BMWs or Q50s.
Oh, I know exactly what you're going to say.
They remind me of these guys that just, are full on, flat out, in between lanes, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and then cause these massive wrecks. I just think that they're completely...
they have a name for that. They call it No-Hesi.
Yeah, well, guess what? I think that's absolutely ridiculous.
No hesitation, because they
I figured out the abbreviation.
They're just going and just weaving that with no.
So here, for somebody that lives in New York that will drive in the city, or and it even happens now. It happens a lot. It still happens a lot, like on the expressway, right? Mm-hmm. I think for somebody that's been in the midst of having these cars doing that stuff more than a handful of times, I will say that I think it's the most destructive thing that you possibly can do.
I mean, it's crazy stuff. It's really just so dangerous and ridiculous and stupid.
Yeah.
But I mean,
there's nothing motorsport about it.
No.
Like, I don't care what you say. There is no correlation that I'm not you, but I mean, I don't care what anybody would say. I don't believe that there's any correlation that you can put on that type of recklessness. Because the truth is, look, the thing is that they're relying on everything to remain perfect, right? That let's even say that these people somehow, we didn't know, but they were just as good as Michael Schumacher and happened to own an Infiniti. And they decide, all right, I'm going to now, take and show you my skills in the middle of a traffic-filled Belt Parkway.
Mm-hmm.
You're still relying on everything being perfect.
Well,
people on the belt can't navigate on and off ramps.
No.
What makes you think that they're going to hold their position so that you can squeeze your BMW through the gap?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the real message here is that, you know, the people need a controlled environment, right? You know, like doing any of that kind of stuff in real daytime traffic or traffic in general on the streets is just so ridiculously stupid and just dangerous that it should never be done or happen or whatever. I mean, it's different than street racing, what I would say. You know, from street racing, when I think of it, it's a little bit more controlled than this. And
This
by
is
a little
not,
bit,
but this is this thing that you see going on, these, whether it be the No-Hesi thing or the street takeovers or whatever, there's nothing racing about it.
right?
And the donuts that people
It's
are doing in the middle of these circles at street takeovers, that's not drifting.
No.
Like, drifting is not something that you happen to do in your car. That's hoonigan stuff, right? I don't want to use hoonigan, but like that's stuff that when you're ratcheting around in your car or messing around, it's the thing we used to do as kids, like in the snow. What the best part about snow was the fact that you used to take your front wheel drive car and you used to be able to go into a parking lot, pull the e-brake a little bit, an empty parking lot covered with a little bit of snow, and you get the car to slide a little bit, right? Like as a kid, we were always looking for empty parking lots when it first snowed. Like I remember, like, you know, next time, right? Yo, what's up? What are you doing right now? Nothing. It just started snowing. Okay. You want to hit the parking lot? Yeah. Let me get my clothes on. I'll be over in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, there was nobody else in there. You know what I mean? Like, and we would go. I mean, and again, I'm not condoning even that, but what I'm saying is that, like,
But that's
this was just, and it wasn't high speed. It was
no.
like,
That's what I'm saying. It's more of a controlled. It's a controlled environment.
Well, I mean,
It's
look, you can argue that.
Controllable.
More, there was nothing we were going to mess up, and there was no other people there. But
Yeah.
where this gets complicated is when you bring a lot of people and start doing donuts, and, you know, I mean, you're not it's not good.
No.
It's not good. And you know what the worst part about this is that, and I hate, because I don't like to go political, right? But politicians and lawmakers and people that are not into cars, okay? I'm going to group everybody into people that are not into cars, because I believe that there's people in those lawmaking categories that are into cars, and they do understand that what this is. But they tend not, the people that don't know about cars, they tend to relate this to motorsport.
Yeah.
Which is a fallacy, and it's a complete, just completely incorrect. And when they do that, they're basically taking people that are, you know, that really like to do motorsports in a controlled environment in a safe way, and they want to be able to just race and or drift or compete in motorsport.
Yep.
You're saying that is negated because that's the same as causing riots and injuries and
Property damage,
whatever.
Yeah, all that
disregard
stuff.
to laws.
Yep.
On public roadways.
Right.
Not the same.
No, it's definitely not the same at all. You know what I wonder? I wonder if there's an increase of takeovers in areas where there's no tracks nearby, though. That's something I would think.
Now, here's where the part gets really messy, and I don't have any data or facts to back
Me
it up.
either. I'm just saying speculation,
This
just
bothers
in
me.
intuition, I guess. I don't know.
But I would venture to say that if you looked at the majority, it's less to do with the tracks and it's more to do with urban centers.
So what do you mean, though?
I just mean like I don't see too many takeovers that are happening in the middle of these suburbs. I feel like every takeover that I see is happening in some sort of urban city, right? Like they don't have, when we see them in the middle of this big intersection, there's like, I mean, that's their neighborhood, or they're going to some of these neighborhoods, and I don't know. Like, I just feel like it's a layer of population. Like I'll be honest with you. Like, I don't, you know, even this No-Hesi thing. Like, I think it's pretty big in very specific areas. You know, I even think about like what happened with drag racing 20 years ago, right? Drag racing was in closed off industrial areas at night. Reckless, yep. something that should have been done? No. But the people that they were going to hurt was themselves.
Yeah.
Now, that's not good either. I'm not just putting a positive spin on something. I'm just saying, at the end of the day, it wasn't on a public roadway. And I even remember being at some of these events in Mexico, of course, and people took pretty good lengths to try, and again, not condoning it, but took pretty good lengths to try to ensure that things stayed closed, that there was no other traffic going in, which is, I think, a major difference between...
That even reminds me right away of the first
don't say it.
Streets closed, pizza boy.
No, stop it.
Listen,
but I vaguely remember way back in the day, and that there would be people that would cover cross streets, like that. And yes, there was the Nextel thing, right? And then even some of the people that would be kind of running those races, when they were like, I mean, was there times that there was like big races and you had a lot of the people spectator, like they're a little too close to maybe the two cars? Yep. But for the most part, even before the race, I remember like you used to always be, guys, move, and waving people out of the way and different things like that, because they were trying to make, this wasn't about getting anybody hurt. This was legitimately just about racing cars.
You know what it is? I think the main difference is just got to be down to, the interest, essentially, in the sense that people out there who were street racing years ago like that, or whatever that you're describing, and people who go into motorsports have the same passion for cars and tuning and stuff like that.
Yes.
And you know what the difference is? The people who do the takeovers and whatever, all they care about is showing shit on... shouldn't curse, I'm sorry. Showing stuff on social media.
Well, so that's a good point. So then what do you think the appeal is for street takeovers?
The appeal is, I have a boring life and I'm doing something cool. Look at me. Or quote unquote cool.
So you think it's all about the social
I'm
appeal.
look at me, I'm doing rowdy stuff and I'm living a cool life. And it's not car driven like the other stuff. Like, like people who care about tuning their cars and working on their cars and, just car related stuff, the passion. You know? I
agree. I don't
they don't have the bug.
I don't think they're the same things, but I do think that not having tracks is extremely detrimental to anybody who's going to want to take part in motorsports. And when I say that, I want to be very, very clear.
I think so too. That's kind of more or less what I was trying to say. You know what sucks the most too? I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, you're fine.
But something that sucks is that if you're imagine being in the area where takeovers happen, and you don't partake in that because you're not stupid.
That's Ocean City with the whole H2O thing.
Yeah, but
it wasn't H2O. Just to be clear.
Imagine you at home. You have some kind of beautiful tuner car that you put your heart and soul working into, and you gotta drive that thing around the streets, and people are looking at you like, that guy's an a-hole.
But that's what's happened.
And you're just like, no, not me. You guys, who doesn't know cars, you don't get it. This is not that.
But I feel like that even to this day.
That sucks.
Yeah, I mean, look, here's one thing that I think, probably the only thing I could think of that's been positive about getting older, and I'm not like old, just for everybody to know, I'm not that old, but I'm older than the average younger bear, but I'm younger than the average older bear.
Yes.
Right. So
some may say middle life.
No, I don't believe. I'm hoping not, because I have some more years. I want to do some stuff. But
there we go.
What I'm saying is what was I saying? I feel like that's a hard.
You were saying that there was one positive light to growing older.
One part of getting older is that for even when I'm driving my car, or if I'm driving something, I feel like there's that moment of when you roll past the cop, and you oh,
of course,
yeah. And so there's that moment of I put the clutch in, try to drop the exhaust note, and whatever. And I pass a cop, and then there's those times where I feel like he sees me look at him, and then he's looking at me because of the car, and then he's like, he's too old for that, he's fine, and he lets me go, just doesn't even say anything, just let it go right by.
This might be a little ridiculous for me to say on the podcast, but I think it's okay. You're gonna just be like, this is ridiculous. you're gonna be like, this is really silly, but it's just on topic.
Okay.
I've been saying this same thing for the last 10 years, my entire time driving. I found a hack to drive past in a cop and never getting pulled over. And,
okay. What
and
is it?
so I used to drive around in my Civic, which was loud as hell because it was
Yeah.
I had no cat and it wasn't straight pipe, but it might as well be, it was very loud. And my trick to driving past a cop and not getting pulled over, it was to pick your nose. And and the reason was because if you can make dead eye contact with your finger in your nose passing that cop, the first thing that guy's going to think is, gross, that guy's picking his nose. He's not going to think that's a loud car to pull him over. And I think it's worked. I think it's always worked. I don't know.
There are not too many things in this life that make me speechless.
Listen, you drive past someone and they're picking their nose. What's the first thing you're going to think? Just, ugh, that guy's picking his nose.
I mean, okay.
Before you know it, I'm gone, and that cop's just like, that was gross. Didn't even realize what car I was in. He was just like, ugh.
Rich, I don't.
On to the next one.
I'll be honest with you. I'm incredibly sorry that you cut me off on whatever I was gonna say to tell me that.
I passed on that information to a couple friends of mine. They all confirmed it works.
But their sole citing is that they have. So now what do I got to do? We got to. No, I'm not. This is ridiculous. I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not entertaining this. This
It's
isn't
fine.
real. This didn't happen.
We can move on.
Yeah. Thank you. I mean, geez, that was awful. I don't even understand it all. Anyhow. So whatever we were saying, the one advantage I think to getting older is the fact that when cops seem to look at me, they kind of just like, nah, it's not him. I mean, unless I'm doing something.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
They're just like, oh, he's good.
I think there's that level of like, when I realized there was, when I first had my daughter, right, like way back in the day, I remember I realized that if they could just see the baby seat, like they wouldn't want to pull me over.
Yeah.
Like who wants to pull over with a baby or a kid in the back seat, right?
No.
And so then I did get pulled over when she was in the back seat because my registration was, I guess it lapsed.
Uh-huh.
So the cop was like, look, but the way he said it was like, to me, was everything. He's like, look, I ran your plate came back as your registration. He's like, look, where are you headed to now? I'm like, oh, I got to drop my daughter off and then I'm going to work. And he's like, when you get to work, go online, DMV,
right,
do the thing, print it out. He's like, you can get back on. He's like, the date's printed right on your registration. He's like, it's not just the month and the year at the end of the month. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. He's like, yeah, well, he's like, look, he's like, get to work, take care of it. But I remember him constantly looking in the back seat and I remember thinking I bet you I would have got a ticket if she wasn't here. So I think the older things, sometimes they give you a little bit of a slide just because it's like,
it's a lot different than having
he's like, there's nothing in my car. There's nothing he's going to find. Like he doesn't, you know what I mean? Like there's nothing else. I feel like half the time they stop these people besides just making a point is to almost because they know there's going to be 7 other things that will come of it. And when you get to the dude like me, that what are you going to cite me for? I wasn't speeding. He's really got to have something to pull me over with. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get it.
So I don't know. But yeah, I mean, look, no tracks, I think are a catastrophe. And here's the other thing. Last thing. I think that it doesn't matter. I think people, when they hear motorsports, they're immediately thinking internal combustion engines, and they don't equate people that are getting into EVs as going to be into motorsports either. But I will say this, these EV cars are often much faster than the majority of the internal combustion engine cars.
Without a doubt, we all know that.
And because of that, I think you're going to find that people are going to want to use them for motorsport even at that. So if that's going to be the case, then I think you're still doing a disservice to the community by not having an outlet for men, women, children, theys, its, us, all colors, to have a place to participate and drive these cars. Yeah. And trucks and stuff and carts and stuff.
I think so too.
Yeah. So that's it. We're done. I don't want to talk about it anymore. I'm worried that you're going to pick your nose, and I want to get the heck away from you.
If anyone heard that, it's a good hack.
Anyhow, we'll catch you on the next one.